Good afternoon, everybody. David Paul with you in the KHOU 11 Weather Center. And for the foreseeable future, at 3 o'clock every day moving forward, we will be giving you this, which is an expanded tropical update in detail on what's going on with a system that we are now monitoring that has the potential to get into the Gulf this week and perhaps develop in the Gulf this week. At the moment, the spot is here. It's where the X is. It's off the coast of Florida. That's a tropical disturbance, or defined as an area of disturbed weather. It basically means we've got an organized cluster of thunderstorms that is in a spot that has the potential, the ingredients to perhaps close off a low, become a tropical depression or a tropical storm sometime over the next 7 days. And the chance for that happening right now from the Hurricane Center is at 30%. So the spot we're watching is here, cluster of thunderstorms, but it is forecast, this cluster, to move across Florida tonight and then get into the Gulf of Mexico tomorrow. And at that point, conditions will be at least moderately favorable for development of a tropical system. At that point, we do think it will continue to move west across the northern Gulf. So it is something that everyone in the Gulf will be monitored, including we here in Houston, and it's something that at home you need to make sure that you're monitoring the weather at least once a day. So at 3 o'clock, again tomorrow, right here, we will give you a live update that will stay on KH11 Plus. You can always get it. We'll also do supplemental updates in the morning and in the evening on the tropics, so you can use KHOU 11 Plus and, of course, KHOU 11 News as your clearinghouse for information on what's going on in the tropics and with this system as we go forward over the next several days. Closer view of what's going on right now. So looking at the satellite and radar, you can clearly see this is showing some type of counterclockwise rotation. So just by looking at this over the last 6 hours, it looks like things are getting organized in a tropical sense. Out here off the coast of Florida, there's Fort Pierce, Ormond Beach, Titusville, Cape Canaveral's right here as well. So sitting just off the coast of Cape Canaveral, that's where we have low pressure that is trying to get organized. And we have put in some of the wind streamlines here as well. They haven't really been able to close off completely, but they're close. So what we have right now is what we define as an open wave. If you follow the streamlines, they come in, they twist, but they don't completely connect. So it's an open wave, but were that to close off and form a closed isobar, a closed low, then we would have the Hurricane Center possibly updating this to a tropical depression. And at that point, we'd begin to get a forecast cone. So we don't have that yet. So far in the weather office today, we've been monitoring some buoy information off the coast of Florida. We're not seeing any significant pressure drops right now, but just looking at this from satellite and radar, clearly you can see we have a budding counterclockwise rotation. So the potential is here even this afternoon and tonight to perhaps see this get better organized and get upgraded. So that's where we stand right now looking at satellite and radar. So where is this thing headed? Global models all kind of agree on a general track of this system across Florida tonight, tomorrow, and then tomorrow afternoon or evening getting into the Gulf of Mexico, and then continuing its trek to the west across the northern portion of the Gulf of Mexico. So as I put the model in motion, that's what you're going to see. What you'll also see and what we're watching for is this right here. So model data, follow that black line with me right here. See how that is a closed line? So model data is suggesting that even tonight, late tonight or in the early hours tomorrow morning, this goes into Tuesday morning, we could see a closed low, a tropical depression, form on the east side of Florida, on the Atlantic side of Florida, off the coast of Cape Canaveral and Jacksonville, Florida. So that's a possibility. Then it's going to have to go across land. Now remember, water is the source of energy for all tropical systems. So when a system, especially a developing system, interacts and moves across land, it can be disrupted and weakened quite significantly. So that's going to be the first real big question mark as to how strong, how organized this system will be once it makes its trek across Florida. And the models suggest, you'll notice that closed low kind of evaporates. It becomes an elongated low. So it may go from tropical depression down to just disturbance again as we go into Tuesday afternoon. This will be tomorrow afternoon and evening with the system, what there is of it, getting into the north and eastern Gulf of Mexico off the Big Bend coast of Florida. From there, models in general all showing the same thing. They want to take it to the west, and perhaps we get a closed low of some degree. Whether it's a tropical depression, tropical storm, or hurricane is just way too early to tell, but that's why we just have to monitor this like a hawk. There are a lot of questions as to how intense this system will get, and one of the biggest question marks is how close to land will this center be as it moves across the northern Gulf. If the center of this struggling to develop system stays right along the coast, well, then it's interacting with land, and that can significantly slow and retard the development of a tropical system. It can keep a system from developing at all. So if it stays close to the shoreline of Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, it could struggle to develop at all and just be kind of a rainmaker along the Gulf Coast. If the center were to develop just a little bit further offshore and stay out here, well, then it would be free of the interaction of land, and it would have an opportunity to perhaps strengthen and intensify much more rapidly. These are just simply question marks that we can't answer right now, especially because the system hasn't formed a closed low, and so we don't really have much for model guidance to grab off of yet. So monitoring this system on a daily, sometimes twice daily basis is what you and we will be doing over the coming days as we go through this week. In any case, by Thursday, models do put some sort of a low here off the coast of New Orleans. So if this were to continue on a westerly track and impact the Houston area, it would be Friday night, Saturday that we would feel the significant impacts from this. If it gets that far to the west, that's the big question. So let's look at what's steering this whole thing. And it will, in general, be this big blob of high pressure in the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere. These are the steering currents. So around that blob of high pressure, everything is rotating clockwise. That's how everything's going to move. And that's why what there is of this is going to head west as it's following the flow around the base of that ridge of high pressure. So we'll put this in motion, and here's how the models see this ridge evolving. It kind of conglomerates into one parent high off the coast of Florida, but notice how it noses all the way into West Texas, that high pressure ridge. So what you have is a flow along the northern part of the Gulf, east to west. That's what is steering this. That's why the models are taking it to the west. It's following the flow around this nose of the ridge of high pressure. And then up here we've got winds blowing off to the east. The question is, how far west will this get before it finds a weakness? And what I mean by weakness is a little break, somewhere in here, a little break in that mountain of air. And it's going to try to go north. Because of the Coriolis force, this low, it wants to go north, but it can't, because literally, think of this ridge, I'm going to draw it in here, think of this as a mountain of air. So this is literally like having a mountain range to the north. There's the base of the mountain. And these areas of low pressure want to follow the path of least resistance. So right now, it doesn't want to go up the mountain. That would be difficult. It's easier for it to just kind of flow along the base of the mountain. So it's following the path of least resistance. But the Coriolis force wants to bend low pressure off to the north in the northern hemisphere. So what it's looking for as it moves along here, it's kind of probing to see if it can find a little area where there's a valley, a little weakness. And if it finds a valley, it's going to go north. But exactly where or if it will find a weakness remains to be seen. So with this type of a scenario, we're just not sure how far west it's going to get before it finds one of those weaknesses to the north and turns north, or will this ridge, this mountain, stay strong enough and push it all the way in to the central or southern Texas coast? All questions, all possibilities are in play. And because we have a weak system right now, it's difficult to answer those questions. So wind shear is going to be another factor in how strong this can get. Interaction with land can slow the development of a system. Wind shear can also slow it as well. So here's wind shear going into Tuesday. And basically what you're looking at is the flow from east to west. And as we get into Tuesday, this is kind of in a little hole where there isn't a lot of upper level wind shear. So that could allow the system to strengthen. As it moves further west, it does begin to interact with a little bit of shear coming in from east to west. That could also weaken or slow down the system's strengthening. So wind shear, what am I talking about? So wind flow at the upper levels. A healthy hurricane, if you will, wants to be stacked perfectly vertical, up and down. Literally from outer space, you could look down the eye and see the ocean's surface. That's how you get a strong hurricane. This is an unsheared environment. Simply put, wind shear blowing across the top of a storm tilts it. When you tilt that rotation, it interrupts, it disturbs that counterclockwise flow, and it can weaken or even rip apart an existing storm, or it can keep a storm from developing altogether. So that's why wind shear is very important to watch. This will be encountering at least some wind shear, but not a whole lot. So that's why conditions look to be at least moderately favorable for some development on this system. But wind shear is another big factor. Sea surface temperature. So really, anything above 80 degrees is all you need to get a powerful storm going. In this case, right now, the storm is developing in maybe 82, 83, 84 degree water temperature. The temperatures you're looking at are actual physical readings. They're actual buoys that are out here. This is not interpolated from satellite. This is actual surface temperature from buoys. So the buoy data off the coast of Cape Canaveral is 82. So it's developing in water that's plenty warm. Anything above 80, you can get a tropical system. Once it gets across it into the Gulf, it does become very warm. So the amount of energy available for this system to gather is quite strong. You've got this system forecast to come right across an area of the Gulf where sea surface temperatures, there's a physical buoy, a real buoy with an 88 degree sea surface temperature. So there's plenty of energy out here. But again, anything above 80, you can get a powerful system. Yes, upper 80 gives it more energy, but the bigger factors for development are going to be wind shear and interaction with land. So those are the two big things we're going to be watching. The 80 degree plus sea surface temperature is just like we're checking a box. We've got plenty of energy for a system to develop in. Irregardless of strength, even the weaker systems can be huge rainmakers. So even if this were to get all the way across the Gulf, we go into Friday, Saturday, and it's maybe just a tropical depression. It has the potential to bring in a ton of tropical moisture. Even the weak systems, the weaker systems are notorious for being flood makers. So early track guidance on rainfall potential, it's not anything over the top. 1.5 inches of rain modeling is showing. But again, this is really early in the story, folks, really early. So take all these numbers with a grain of salt. As things develop, things will come into focus a little bit better, and any tropical system has the potential to drop 10 inches of rain or more. That's just the bottom line. So we'll have to wait for that. This would be rain totals as it's seen right now by the models now through Saturday. So what do you do with all this information? Monitor the forecast daily is the most important thing. That makes sure no one gets caught off guard in case this system does surprise and become strong and come our way. Monitor it at least once a day. I would suggest monitoring it twice. We're on the air on the TV side 5 to 7. So Jen and Sheeta, Weather and Traffic, and Sheeta will be giving the updates live there. We're on KHOU 11 Plus. We're streaming from 7 to 9. So you can catch that for an update as well. Of course, we got our new news. We will do a 4, 5, and 6 on the TV side. That's also streams on KHOU 11 Plus. So we're always on. We always have information there for you that you can get the latest update. We'll do updates here at 3 o'clock like this every day, expanded updates that you can go to KHOU 11 Plus, download it on your TV, and just hit it anytime. The latest information will be there for you, so it's at your leisure. And then we also do another Plus update live at 6:30. So all through the day, we're on the TV side. You can get us online, of course, in KHOU 11 Plus, download it, and literally just click on the latest update, and it's there. So that's a great clearinghouse for you to just plan on being with us at least once or twice a day. Check your evacuation route if you're on the coast. If this becomes a big storm, knowing your evacuation route now will save you a lot of stress Inland, check your hurricane plan. Supplies, what would you want to have if we were to get a big storm? We do that at the beginning of every season, so it's nothing new, but now's the time to double check your plan. And again, frequent updates available on the TV side and on KHOU 11 Plus. We'll do this every day at 3. It'll always be on KHOU 11 Plus, and our next live update, we'll have the latest modeling update, comes in at 4 o'clock. On the TV side with KHOU 11 News at 4, 5, 6, and at 10. We'll see you then for the next updates.